Hi, I'm Doreen Milano, and you're tuned in to Big Ideas Small Business TV. And we are currently at the OBBM studios at Grace Point Media, and we have a panel that we're going to be talking to today. We've got Chris Wallace, Susan Hamilton, Larry Kortkamp, and myself, and we're going to be talking about some of the hurdles small business has to really look at and look at their level of participation. We'll be right back.
You're tuned into Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano. Doreen brings energy, focus, and creativity with the most cutting-edge tools and systems needed to grow business, drive profits, and achieve dreams. Ready to rise? Here's your host, Doreen Milano.
Hi. We have a panel discussion today, and we're going to be talking about how small business can get more involved in some of the local issues and the bigger issues that are affecting their businesses, whether they want to recognize it or not. So to start, I really have a question. When you are a member of a small business, and essentially we all are here, how do we pick and choose what we are going to participate in? And at what level do we participate?
Who wants to kick it off, Susan?
I think we didn't realize that we could or should. I think for too long we were saying those people over there. You know, I grew up in a local family business, and I remember the discussion surrounding regulation in the trades. And I remember often the discussion was, well, that they made that decision. There's a hoop you've got to jump through. Yeah. That don't really understand what it looks like to do this type of work.
Always the proverbial
they don't get it, right? That they
Isn't
don't
there?
get it. And who are we? We're just these small people. And I think it really fueled me at a very early age to go, okay, what do you mean there's something, if you don't say no, if you don't say I don't like this, if you don't say I need this, you are always going to have a they and point a finger at the they rather than be a part of that change.
And it's just a nebulous blob,
it's
right?
And you'll never change it.
You never know what it is.
And in fact, it'll get bigger.
And we see that, right? We see it in our local elections.
Absolutely.
But what I've been so excited about this past year is seeing, and this is a nationwide effect, starting at the local school board level, the amount of increased presence of local people, right? Even non-parents that were trying to get into these meetings and make their presences known to a point to where it really echoed throughout the nation and caused immediate changes on many school boards across the country.
That's amazing because we
These
didn't
little
even
people
know.
making those changes.
Who knew that you don't have to have a child in that school district because the public education that's going on in your community impacts the design of your city for the next generation, so it absolutely matters. And we didn't know we had a say. We didn't know we could go in and say, wait a minute, show me that policy. Well, in fact, they're still hiding a lot of those things and make it very, very difficult to go in and view and understand the curriculum going forward. But now we're starting to realize that we've got to press for that because we do have a constitutional right to it.
I just read an article yesterday about a California school where the teacher coached the student as to their sexual orientation, letting them know that they are this or that or the next thing. And the parent went nuclear. And I don't think that we as parents or citizens in an area understand that we have a say in what is going on in the schools, in how the information is being disseminated.
Well, and this is the ultimate we-they, right? Because we've also seen, even at the federal level and many local levels, where the people that are in power currently, are saying we don't have a say. In fact, parents don't have a say in what their children are taught. They're actually saying these things out loud and saying that, and pushing back against parents that want to be involved. And we have to know where do our rights lie.
I think that's
what can we do and what can't we do, right?
There's that, and I think if you don't know the Constitution, if you haven't taken any time to understand what documents protect your personal liberties and your property, If you don't know that, then you're hard pressed to understand what it means to be an American. But the other piece of it is knowing organizations like yours that are really seeking to go, okay, how do we answer these questions? How do we rise to the new challenge today? Because we really didn't see these things coming, and in fact, they've been going on for quite some time.
Yeah, and we are all for citizens becoming more engaged, right? I mean, that's what we're out asking for every day, is to become more engaged, to pay attention, to ask those questions, but do it in a civil manner, right? Sure. Show up to school board meetings and ask the questions of school board members and administrators in a civil manner. And even bigger than that is maybe volunteer. Some of them have never even set foot in an administration building.
That's the truth.
Whether they have parents, whether they have kids in school, their parents or they're not. But to volunteer for schools, there's a lot of opportunities there to learn about how schools function, the importance of particularly public schools, and the really good work that they do. And what strain that a lot of our teachers are under. During the example you gave in California, I haven't heard that. I'd be interested to dive more into it. But I wonder, my first is I wonder what type of guidance that child is receiving at home or not.
I wonder what kind of guidance that teacher is getting for that position to think that they have any business having that discussion at school instead of teaching math or reading.
And who asked the question? Was it the child needing guidance from the teacher because they felt a comfort, safe zone to be able to ask those questions?
And that is a really good question that
so many teachers
the article
nowadays
didn't go into, right?
Yeah, I mean, so many teachers nowadays have to be that guidance for the whole child. It's not just reading, writing, arithmetic. It's
the
life
mental
skills,
health.
critical thinking skills, and mental health, making sure they eat. They're having to be parents as well.
No, they're stepping into a role that they don't. They are stepping into a role. Now, granted, there has always been, there's populations where there is a big parent need in the community, and there are organizations. We are neighbors. We should know each other on that ground. We should know our community. We should know how to support them. Geez, if it's not knowing the kids in the community and what they need and how the families are and what, those are the roles for that type of communication. When we get into any teacher in any education scenario saying, wait a minute, I don't think this child's getting that, I'm going to take on a parental role. Now we have to start really thinking, is that policy appropriate for the United States of America for the growth of that child growing up in a free society?
Because a lot of these issues, Susan, they're not new. There's always been poor parenting. There's always been, you know,
and it's quite
industries and
unfortunate. We all
pockets
agree
where
with
they
that.
don't have as much money or assets or wherewithal. But in the past, we would have a teachers-parent conference together saying, little Susie doesn't seem to be getting enough food.
Why
She's
is it
falling
always
asleep
little
in
Susie?
class.
Somebody tell me why it's always little Susie. I don't.
Well, you didn't like it when we were doing Karen and then Susie and
Because your name
Pam.
is Susan.
I guess, yeah.
Anyway, it's always existed, but in the past there was a different protocol that we followed, correctly? And now we seem to have somehow
Decided
instilled
to do
the
those
teacher.
things and tell the parents later. Right?
Chris asked, you know, what questions were asked. In often cases, we're finding there was never a question asked. It's the teacher making an assumption or the administrator making an assumption.
And we wouldn't know
and acting
that.
upon it without even any consideration that's happening.
And to me, there may be case by case some of that going on, but also what is that student reaching out for? What are they missing? What are they in need of that they're not getting? And they trust that teacher to be able to ask that. Now, should the teacher respond, and you know, is there different requirements in place based on
kinds of
what the
other
state
questions
legislature
come up.
has done?
Yeah.
Absolutely, and that teacher has a really tough job to be able to say, am I stepping over a boundary here because I really want to help this student.
Right, but that is the moral challenge that they have every day. and
But
all
again,
of us have that challenge in our
they're
lives.
saying we've been placed in this position where now we have a tough job. Is it, or should your reaction be, we'll take this up at another time, or I wish I could help you with that right now, and I can't?
Or let's get mom and dad together.
Exactly.
Or mom or dad, or mom and dad, whoever it is, and let's get them together and have that discussion.
So let me ask a question here.
If they'll show up, though. If
Well,
they'll
then
show
there's
up.
the,
They'll show
the
up, right.
grandparent issue, right? Yeah.
Let me ask a question. How are the school systems in North Texas specifically, because that's where we live,
Right.
supporting education from the standpoint that these are future business owners
That's it.
and workers.
That's it.
So how are we supporting that level of education? Because it starts in grade school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a kid, I grew up in a big Italian family. Well, this is a story I've told
Milano.
many, many times. But my education in business started at the dinner table. My understanding of balance sheets and financial statements happened when I was 5, and I was helping my grandmother do all the math by hand. My education in inventory started when I was 4, and I was helping my grandfather. But that's a unique situation. Are we actually teaching our kids some of the fundamentals of business and business strategies and principles?
I love that. I love that. And I think Garland ISD is doing some really interesting things in that space with there's these business, the name escapes me, but this organization where the businesses can come together and allow these kids to kind of experience working in them. And they do that at a very young age. I really enjoy seeing some of those types of
So
things.
where they have that exposure,
They
that
have exposure
hands-on
to the business
access.
and a hands-on access.
Absolutely.
So let's table this discussion for a nanosecond, and we're going to go to break, and we're going to come back and talk about education as it pertains to building our future business leaders. We'll be right back.
A polished look says a lot about you. In under 3 seconds, that first impression can open and close doors. Japrive has the brands you love to wear. Style & Company, Pistola, Aiden, Vince Camuto, and more. 165 labels with fit that flatters. Japrive.com. Japrive ships from Farmers Branch, Texas. Ask us about local DFW fashion shows that bring Japrive right to you. Upscale fashion doesn't have to be expensive, and you don't have to dig through racks of clothes that end up damaged and missing buttons from being tried on over and over and over again. Japrive.com is your answer to fine clothing in casual, career, and formal wear. Make a name for yourself. Do it in style. Japrive. Japrive.com. Name brand apparel without the department store prices.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interests, and we never will be. The Epoch Times is a non-partisan media. That means we don't stand for any political party. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Welcome back.
Safe.
I'm Doreen Milano, and you're listening to Big Ideas Small Business TV. And we have a wonderful panel here with Chris Wallace, Susan Hamilton, Larry Kortkamp, and myself. And we're talking about education as it applies to building our future small business leaders. And we were just discussing how our school systems are preparing our kids.
And why that matters, because there's so much policy behind a lot of the things that we see that we can actually maybe impact and do a better job at, because this is a very different world today. And everybody, we've come through so much, and we really have to look at it now from a new lens of what went wrong. I really think that it's very important to see that. instead of really just kind of glossing over that. We now have a serious deficit in, and I think we have in a long time, comprehension of what I read, the ability to read, the ability to write and communicate effectively and speak diplomatically.
However, to your point, I think we still have a disagreement as to, number one, is it wrong? Did we go wrong?
Is wrong?
And if we did wrong, what are you saying is wrong and what am I saying is wrong?
Are we allowed to say
we
anything's
can't even
wrong?
get together on what is right and what is wrong, right?
Right. But what doesn't work? I mean, we should have, we seem to have some policies in place that say at this grade level, we expect this much out of a student's ability, and they've either met grade level or they didn't. And we're struggling right now. And I think if we don't look at that more comprehensively, that's a large group of up and coming workforce and business owners that are going to struggle a bit.
One of the things I was really kind of taken aback to find is I wrote a note longhand to somebody who is an employee of someone else that I know. And it was giving some instructions as to what I needed to happen next for the next interaction. And the young lady came back to me and said, I can't read this. There's a whole generation that cannot read cursive writing. And how sad is that? Because that means they can't even read our Constitution.
That's the biggest issue there, and I have a lot of strong feelings about that for certain. Yeah,
and some schools are bringing that back. Yeah. You know, the landmark legislation that the legislature passed, thankfully, session before last, school finance reform, I think it's going to go a long way to making sure that public schools have the support that they need. You had mentioned some of the innovative programming, Garland ISD, and you gave some examples. Those examples are real throughout the entire state, particularly within the North Texas region. You have school districts that are very innovative, that are understanding what businesses need. Why? Because the business leaders are in the school telling them what they need, and they're making sure that these programs exist, and they're providing private sector resources as well. So you have that public and private sector partnership, which is key to making sure that our future workforce is educated, is able to critical think, that they're innovative. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. We have a long way to go. But I think that the additional resources that the legislature provided and they renewed basically this last session is really going to help to make sure that school districts are being innovative, that they are thinking really outside the box, and now they're given the leverage and the resources to do so.
I'm curious how where the North Texas Commission was on that. How did you impact that?
So we were front and center on school finance reform on HB 3, making sure that it passed, making sure that our public schools have the support that they need. We're thankful that it did pass. First time in our state's history that it passed without a court order. So the legislature did it by themselves.
So when you decide when we decided what they need, is there maybe a short bullet list of what those items were?
Oh, you bet. You bet. And a lot of that was not only from what school administrators and teachers and parents who are all involved on what is needed for kids, but businesses, small business, mid-sized, large corporate at the table saying, here's what is lacking today, here's where we need to be, and here are some ways to get to be innovative, and those resources will help us achieve that.
Maybe one or two things. Like what?
Well, you have now more businesses in the schools. You have schools that are like you.
Funding. That's what I'm talking about.
Needed
what are
funding.
those particular things?
Absolutely.
They need the business funding to have that.
Some innovative to where businesses are going into school districts. They're going into even higher education, and they're pinpointing kids, even underserved kids. And if you keep your grades at a certain level, we're going to watch you over the next couple years. You're going to go to a 2-year or 4-year. You'll have a job at XYZ company when you graduate. And we're going to watch you through that process. And 2 years and 4 years aren't for every kid. And so there are jobs nowadays that pay, as we all know, a very good, fair, even more fair wage without a 2-year to 4-year degree. And so, and they're very much needed. You look at our aging workforce, and many of those jobs particularly in the service and technical areas, you can have a certification. So Texas does have a very, I think, achievable goal in the 60 by 30 plan, where 60% of kids are citizens between a certain age limit. I call them kids. They're in their 20s and some of them are early 30s, but that they must have hopefully a certification or a 2-year, 4-year degree by the year 2030. And we're on track to meet that goal. Now we have to make sure that all the agencies are involved in that are communicating together. And luckily they are today. So the Workforce Commission, the Higher Education Coordinating Board, and the Texas Education Agency are all working in that trifecta type of an agency to make sure that they're all combining resources. So the need is there, and legislators are hearing that. And granted, we got a long way to go, but from my lens...
And the path could be a zigzag path to get there. So education, at least with OBBM, I mean, that's kind of a key point for us, and it's a huge discussion point, not one that we're going to discuss here in just a few minutes, but there's a lot of corporations are getting more involved. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Do we have Google coming in now and grooming a child to become a Google employee? Is that the best, really?
Or
is
the
that
need.
why, is that why we're using our education system to help a corporation to gain a workforce, or
small business?
Or is it a better path to say, here is to make a more complete human. This human needs to know this, this, and this to be able to face the world, and we go towards those goals rather to some other ones. So
I think probably a balance, right?
Yeah, and education is tough for that, and then the funding, and where does the funding come from? And we're going to name the new station or the new stadium. It's going to be the AT&T stadium. That's because AT&T has a force within it. Or anytime we get into dealing too much with corporations, there's good and there's bad things to it.
Well, you made the point. You made a comment about what it might be necessary to learn under those particular arrangements. But we can't forget that the most important thing is to teach someone to think, and not so much what to think, but when you know how to read, you can explore this world.
That's
and
the
you
key.
Can explore that beautiful God-given thing we were given with that imagination that allows us to rethink how we want our communities to function, what those businesses of tomorrow are, how you design your city and your community around things that have hopefully that good moral fiber there. But you certainly don't have that opportunity if you cannot read and if you cannot communicate effectively or speak well with people that may not agree with you.
That's why it was reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? We were given the tools.
And I think that's why it's the
Now
math.
it's reading, writing, and computer science.
Now I don't even know what it is. It's not any of those things.
That's the market,
to a
though,
certain
right?
degree.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's the market.
So let's table this for 1 second, and we are going to go and talk to our sponsors and take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Back. This is Big Ideas Small Business TV, and I'm Doreen Milano, and we have a panel today, Chris Wallace, Susan Hamilton, and Larry Kortkamp, and we are having a discussion about education and small business and how education is supporting or not supporting small business. One of the things that we were talking about was the whole mechanism of small business and education, and something I think we need to talk about right now is the mass resignation and what has happened with people that need more flexibility, need more quality of life, and that they're jumping into the gig economy and doing multiple jobs to replace that salary that they had in the corporate arena that didn't give them enough flexibility to live the life that they wanted to live. And with that being said, how do you see the gig economy being supported through our education system? Are the kids getting trained on how to do what they need to do to be successful within the gig economy?
Wow, that is definitely going to be a policy discussion that'll be coming up. I can just feel it. That's true. There are things that you're going to need to understand to be good at that and be able to function and excel at that. I mean, certainly some people do better than others, but there's probably a lot of things we need to consider in that space.
And do we need to even define that, really? The gig economy, really? What are we talking about when we say that?
Well,
is it simply delivering food to your house?
If we
or
don't
is it,
understand it,
you know, what is the gig economy? When people think about that, they hear that on the news.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people even understand what that encompasses, quite frankly.
You're getting contract jobs. Therefore, a specific period of time to do specific things. And as long as you are a contract employee, you have more flexibility.
Well, that's definitely part of it, but now we have companies that are having their W-2 employees working from home. That, in my estimation, is part of this move to a gig economy.
Gig economy.
But it's just a reshaping of what, let's face it, all this relates to how do we earn a dollar to do the things that we're doing, right? So it's all relating to our employment. And we're just seeing a shift in how we as the worker, or how we as the small business or big business are actually trying to arrive at our goals as a business to either put out our products or make our sales, and how do we then have our workforce to respond to that? What's the best place to keep them? Chris and I were talking about how do we keep these people motivated, or whatever that happens to be.
Engaged.
And as the employee, how do we keep them?
yeah, because no matter how you're paying them, if they're not making your company money, you've made a poor decision, and we've got to make sure that we've created those environments that are win-win, where we've thought about it. Doreen, you did a show with Malcolm Reed that I really enjoyed, that you talked about employment and really how we might look at it as employers for how to do a better job to attract and retain that talent, certainly at that mid-level career path, right? Where
we have to market for our employees.
we have to do that.
We have to really
give the flexibility.
We have to really look at
Give them what they're looking for.
the package is, right?
Absolutely, and it is all about the package. It's the flexibility. It's the workspace. It may be
The
a hybrid
benefits.
space. It may be the benefits in terms of health for their family, for themselves.
Time off,
Wages,
whatever it is.
which we talked about too. In one of the breaks is I think that the pandemic has forced us to look at that, and probably maybe needed to look at that.
And there's things that we're very quick to look at the education, the impacts on education, and our kids when they're working from home are not maybe as attentive as they should be. They lack the personal interaction. It's hard for me to not draw a correlation to that same analogy for people working at home. Yes, it's flexible, but what are we missing from that worker that's at home? Are they as attentive? Do they stay, engaged in the workplace? Are they missing the interaction that they used to have with their fellow employees? All these things that are pertaining to one should obviously pertain to the other.
But they're two different groups. I mean, you've got your front line that we really struggle with because most of these businesses cannot. I mean, I know some restaurants that they would love to do more marketing for their business, and they'd love to grow and open up whole sections of their business. But because they cannot find the staff, they're concerned about doing that big blowout, because what if people come, and this is a really ridiculous problem, but if everybody
It's a real
shows
problem.
up,
It's a real
but it's
problem.
ridiculous. I mean, if people show up and we can't accommodate their needs. I mean, there was a time when we wanted an excess of business. We wanted more business than we could handle. And today, that's become a different conversation. It's like, wait a minute, I don't want more business than I can handle, that it could ruin my reputation. I won't be able to cover
quality.
those things.
Yeah.
And how do I keep those people on that front line that are used to, they know for a quarter more, they're going to go down to the next restaurant.
But Susan, that could be a growth as well within that industry group. How many decades have we assumed that the first job that your kid's going to have or whatever is going to be at McDonald's working the register, right? So it's kind of and those small.
Well, mine sure was.
and those small businesses are thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't even need to advertise because I got people coming here that need to work.
Right.
So I think they're arriving at a different point for them too, that I no longer have this easy stream. Maybe they need to do a better job of selling their jobs now than they did selling their food or their services. And we've talked to people about that because there's so many misnomers and unknown facts that contain with many of these jobs, that there's as much income potential there that there is anywhere else. There's a career path in being a hotel manager. There's a career path in owning a restaurant, working your way up.
But you've got to be able to read and write and understand math at a core level. You've got to be able to communicate at a core level, and that does roll right back down to education. But I will say this, Doreen, one of the things that I've really appreciated about you with the OBBM network ever since you started is the focus has always been on that company culture. And a lot of businesses really don't understand they get to impact that. They get to change, they get to develop it. They get to create an environment where you can do these things, like really bring in the type of talent, like as you mentioned, even Apple, now you hear that you created all the fun that you wanted to make it really great for these guys, but now you can't get them to come in. And so now it's just all of this needs to be thought and rethought, probably at an accelerated level today.
And I think a hybrid approach is going to be the future.
Yeah, I think the thing coming is going to be not just a hybrid, it's going to be, there will no longer be a structure. It will definitely be something that is looked at by each and every niche. Yeah, it's a fluid from time, which really as it should be, right? There shouldn't be this item number 1 check, item number 2 check. We've kind of gotten...
As long as goals are being met. Yeah. The production is there. The profitability, is certainly there.
The morale also.
Is very, very important. I think you will have more of the fluid type approach moving forward.
And going back to what we talked about, the school system, we've got a company that makes a widget and they sell the widget for $1. You're not going to make $100,000 as a widget maker at a company that doesn't make the profit. And if they have an understanding of business, that there is sales and there's gross revenue and there's net revenue and expenses and how much all these allocations are, then the workers become, if I'm working there, I have a much better understanding of where I sit in this picture and why
what is the environment that they're working in?
Yeah, and
are they safe there?
Is this where I want to work forever?
Are they going to have a job next year? I mean, is there that certainty there? Sometimes,
see, those are things
that's even more important than the wage itself.
But again, there's no certainty.
I was going to say, the two phrases that I hear over and over again is safety and certainty. I mean, since when did that just become the thing now? Safety and certainty. That's not living.
Safety and certainty don't go hand in hand with owning your own business.
Or any business.
Or living.
It is not
That's what
safe,
employers are looking for, though.
and it's not
That's
certain
what I'm saying. That's what
for the
employees are
business
looking
owner.
for.
But is that because they have been uneducated from day one to understand what a business is? It's not the federal government, which, as we know,
again, we're talking about the worker here. We're not talking about the business owner. We're talking about the actual worker that you're trying to hire.
That's what I mean. They haven't been educated to what a working...
You were talking about the 25 cents at the quarter on down the road for the other restaurant. Well, what is the current restaurant that may be a little bit less wage, but what type of environment are they providing?
What additional benefits are they giving their employees that the other restaurant that's paying a higher dollar is not giving?
Yep.
How are they setting themselves apart?
And there are some that truly are. And they're really making a difference. And
the environment, the employees want to come to work there. They feel safe there. They feel like they are part of the ownership with the decisions. They're not just a worker with a number, but they may be making a little bit less money, but they feel better at that company because of the culture that the company has established.
Something. We don't want to be just a number anymore. I don't think anyone wants to be just a number anymore.
I agree with you. And we're out of time.
We'll fix it.
We'll fix it. So I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to say thank you for joining us. You can reach all of us. Our information will be in the packet, and you will be able to find us all and join the conversation. Leave comments. Let us answer you back. Just really engage. I'm Doreen Milano. This is Big Ideas Small Business TV with the OBBM Network, and we're at Grace Point Media, and we are really happy you joined us today. Have a great day. The fact is, business has changed. Engagement has changed. And for us to recover our businesses and our communities, we have to engage differently. If you want to have a serious conversation about engagement, community, and your business, call me, Doreen Milano, Visions to Excellence. I'm an executive coach. You can reach me at 650-483-5798 or contact me online at v2e.biz. That's capital V, number 2, e.biz. Let's have a conversation.
This has been Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano. Doreen Milano solves problems for small and mid-market family-owned businesses and service-based industries. To work with Doreen, go to v2e.biz. For guest and sponsorship information, call 650-483-5798. Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano is produced by Offbeat Business Media for the OBBM Network. For OBBM Network programming information, call 214-714-0495. Unauthorized use of any part of Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano without prior permission through the OBBM network is strictly prohibited.